Brian? You in here? What are you doing?
I had to pimp it. I had to.
My server?
It needed it. Okay. I should do that. All right. What's up, guys? We are down here at the Gamers Nexus studio. You know this guy. This is Steve. So what I thought might be really interesting today was we both have a good amount of history in the PC industry. We have a lot of stuff that we could talk about referencing past parts and stuff that we've built with. And I have a good amount of older hardware at my office, and I'm like, let me bring some of it down. I want to show you some of the cool stuff that I've been able to accumulate over the years. And I know you probably have some pretty interesting stuff too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so we got some of the stuff on the table here. Let's take a look at it, starting with this thing right here. Steve,
yes.
Where were you in 2007-ish? What were you doing? Was Gamers Nexus a glimmer in your eye?
It was just formed like June-ish 2007 or so on the website. I had started purchasing the domains, didn't really have anything up until 2008, I think.
Yeah.
So technically formed, and system-wise, I think I was probably preparing to build my last system before I started doing this.
Doing the reviews?
Do it like my last, do all the research and buy all the parts. True enthusiast approach. And I think that was, I want to say it was a Q6600, so it might have been a year or two after. Mm-hmm. Q6600 and a half X for the case.
Yeah, classic.
8800 something. I want to say Ultra, but it might have been a GTS or whatever it was called. And I think 4 gigabytes of Patriot memory. I remember that was a big deal because I was like, holy crap, 4 gigabytes, $100. That's amazing.
Plenty of people who are still rocking that same configuration today.
Yeah.
And it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So I guess we were kind of in a similar situation, only I never got the chance to build with any of that stuff. I was actually doing personal builds for our friends, and word of mouth was spreading, and I was starting to build like a very small but business about like building computers for people. You might call it customs. At that time, it wasn't all that customs.
Okay.
It was basically just regulars. But
BPS normies.
BPS norm. Yeah, exactly. But every time I went on to Newegg or wherever I was shopping, Comp USA back in the day.
Yeah, that's where I bought all my stuff. Yeah.
To go and look at what I was building for somebody should go shopping. I would always want to stop and look at like the best, like the best stuff, the highest end stuff. And so in 2017, I did a video on my channel where I looked back at that time, and I'm like, what would I have built if I could have? And this is what I built. So I know that the stock cooler is going to stick out like a sore thumb, but I particularly wanted that for period accuracy.
Yeah.
But under that is a QX6850.
Okay.
Which was one of Intel's first Extreme Edition chips. It was a quad core. It cost about $1,000, $1,100 when it was new. In 2017, when I put this system together, I don't know if you're going to believe this or not, but it did not cost $1,000 for me to purchase that CPU.
In 2016?
17.
17.
Super deal. I got a super bargain on it.
Yeah, no, surprises me because that's way better than Ryzen.
Well, I mean, it has 4 cores,
yeah.
So it's probably equivalent to most modern Intel chips anyway.
It is functionally equivalent to most modern Intel chips. Not a lot has changed.
No, not much. But yeah, 4 cores, no hyper-threading just yet.
Yeah, right.
And I built out the rest of the system.
Do you remember if this is before or after the 6600? I don't remember.
They all came out about the same time. I think this was right after that they came out with the Extreme Edition chip. But I know that this...
I mixed up 2 of my builds too. The i7 Nehalem, that was my last one I did.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a good CPU. That was 2009.
Okay.
I think. So Q6600 would have been a couple of years before.
Yeah, I have something over here from 2009. We'll just take a look at in a second.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah, the 6850 was a monster, obviously, and this is not something that I could have ever afforded back then. But I decided to pair it with 2 8800 GTXs, which you said you had the GTS or the Ultra or one of those.
Yeah, one of them.
But again, like at the time when these came out, these were $500-600 or something like that, and I couldn't fathom spending $500 on a graphics card back then.
I remember. I think that's about what I paid for it too. That was. I think, to the best of my memory, that was the top end.
That was
Like
it. Yeah, the Ultra was the best.
It wasn't $1,200, $1,300.
Yeah, somehow we got from there to here.
It's just inflation, you know.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. So my $500 back then was easily worth $1,200 now. I should have just saved all my $500, and we would have been fine.
Yeah.
But in any event, obviously, having two of them at that time was also
you're loaded if you
was
had two.
pretty unheard of.
Yeah.
So I feel pretty special.
Also, SLI was, I feel like, much more of a functional status symbol than, like, as in it actually did some stuff.
Yeah, a lot of applications back then took advantage of multi-GPU, whereas now, I mean, you're lucky if a game supports it.
Which is, to me, really sad because from an enthusiast level, I really like the idea of multi-GPU.
Yeah.
But I also can't recommend it.
Yeah, same. So yeah, I put that in a board that only supports Crossfire.
Yeah.
And I managed to make it work.
I like your blinged out memory.
My OCZ memory.
Yeah.
That is some classic stuff right there.
I had the kit for the Nehalem one, which was a triple channel platform. Nehalem was triple channel, I think. X58. I had the OCZ sticks that had the heat pipe on top of them, and it came up.
Oh yeah.
And I had a heat sink on top of that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, where has OCZ gone? We could use some of that today.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are two gig DIMMs.
Okay.
So 4 gig, same as yours, same as your configuration. But yeah, I was just super happy when I was able to get this together. I decided that I was not going to go with a power supply from 2007. This seemed like a better idea.
Because you wanted it to work?
Because I didn't want it to literally detonate. Like I felt like I valued my health.
Especially a used power supply.
Yeah, I used power supply from 2007, so I went with the Cooler Master unit too.
Yeah.
But this is something that when I put it together, I was super happy with it when I turned it on and everything worked. And I was like, I got to keep this. It's almost like this is a showpiece in my office.
Yeah.
And this is just something really cool that I thought maybe you would appreciate
too. I like it. Also, we were talking earlier, but this case, despite not being technically the one I guess you would have chosen in that era, it's got the right features.
It is era appropriate, and it's got, I mean, the front is like, it doesn't really get much better.
The front is pretty much dead on.
Yeah.
This side panel where they've got like the
bump out
or whatever, yeah. That's pretty dead on. Even this pop out up here.
Yep.
From the
and
fans.
the grommets in the back for water cooling.
Yeah.
Which is how you had to do it back then.
Yeah.
And one more thing, actually, I forgot. This has a WD Raptor hard drive.
10K RPM.
A 10,000 RPM hard drive. So
I really wanted one of those. I never bought one though at the time.
Well, I did. I bought one.
Yeah.
Like now, though. Not back then. So yeah. So I got a couple other things over here. Let's take a look at those.
Okay.
So it's interesting actually that you brought up 2009 because this is another one of the things that I brought. This is a ATI, not AMD.
Yeah, just before the acquisition.
Right before the acquisition. This is a 5970. And this is something that you don't really see very much of anymore, which is dual GPUs on one card.
And you know how there's big controversy every time a new video card design comes out? Like 5700 XT, right? It's got a bump in it. That's what everyone freaked out about.
Yeah.
With this, I remember, because I remember covering it, the big thing with this was that people thought it looked like the early Batman movies Batmobile.
Yeah, because it's so elongated.
Yeah,
right?
and it's got the front end looks exactly like it too. So that was like the big controversy, I guess, that everyone was upset about when it was announced.
Yeah. So for some reason, I don't have any specific recollections of this actually coming out, but again, on my search for classic hardware, if you Google best GPU 2009, this is literally the search result that comes up first.
Yeah.
So this was made to compete with NVIDIA's 200 series, and they kind of wanted to take the crown from NVIDIA because they were pushing ahead with their newer architectures.
Yeah, and I was just trying to remember what GPU I had around then, and I know that so thinking back, it was i7 Nehalem for that build. That was the half-X build. Before that was an Antec 900 with the Q6600.
Yeah.
That was the second build I did of the three. And I think the GPU I want to say was like a 5870.
Yeah.
That was the second time I did an AMD, or an ATI, I should say, GPU.
Yep, don't get them confused.
Right, after the 4870, which was one of the best buys for the money at the time.
Yeah, I do remember that. And this is 2 of the 5800 series GPUs on one.
Right. Yeah, as made evident there. And it has a metal backplate.
Look at that.
I thought it looked like plastic when I was looking at it in the light.
No, they do not mess around with these
serious.
older designs. Same thing with the 8800 GTXs. Everything on that is metal.
Yeah.
No GPU sag at all.
It was kind of like, I mean, it's blower. It's like the era where you had the yellow sticker on it with the heat symbol.
Yeah.
Like, careful of your hands. But yeah, I'd never used one of these, and it was out of my budget for sure.
Yeah. Well, if you'd like to test it out, I could leave it here, and you can run some benchmarks on it.
I think my insurance would go up.
Yeah.
For fire.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't need to run your heat for a while.
That's true too.
Yeah. All right. I got one more thing for you.
Okay.
Okay. Last thing that I brought was this, which is an AMD FX62. So, are you familiar with the FX62?
I actually wasn't until you brought it up.
Yes. Came out in 2005, and this chip is what started AMD's kind of takeover of the CPU space in the mid-2000s.
I remember the X64s, the Athlon 64s. Yeah.
So I mean, like they were always the underdog, and then all of a sudden, like when they stopped trying to directly compete against the Pentium line, when they had the 30s, whatever, they would rate it like what they assumed it would compare to in the Intel line. They're like, nah, we're just gonna do our own thing, and they made this, and Intel was like, crap.
Yeah. Well, Intel also had issues with hyperthreading on the initial Pentiums. So I had one of the first step in Intel Pentium hyperthreaded CPUs. It was like the poor man's dual core. And that was, I can't remember what the specific issue is. I'm sure someone in the comments will remember. But something where they were just functionally like becoming useless. I want to say it was heat, but I don't remember. And the Athlon CPUs at the time were the alternative, but they weren't available at the CompUSA I went to.
Right. So
And-
you had no.
and there
How
was
else
no-
could you get it?
Yeah, and as far as I remember, there was no Newegg. There might have been, but I don't remember it. So
I mean, even if there was, I don't know. Could you even get to it at that point?
yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, same thing when I was going through my checklist in my head of things that I wanted from back in the day, this was one of them. And this CPU, again, this is a $1,000, $1,100 chip, from AMD, which before the latest Threadripper stuff, like Bulldozer era and before, when was the last time AMD had a $1,000 processor? When it was before, until this.
I don't remember any of
Yeah,
them,
it was
so.
like this is them coming out swinging.
Yeah.
And it did a number on Intel for a while until.
So did you ever actually work with one?
When it was new?
Other than when you bought it recently?
It did not.
Okay.
No, I didn't have the opportunity to do that. Some classic hardware came out of this time, and this, again, kind of like what's happening with Ryzen, this is what helped drive the industry. Because Intel was like, we got to have a response to this.
Yeah.
So after this is when they came out with the Core series.
And the Halem was also a major push for Intel too, many years later from this, many years. But that was like 2009, I think, for Nehalem, like we were talking about. That was a big landmark for Intel. And then I guess the original dual cores from Intel were another big landmark for them.
Yeah.
Especially as they got into mobile eventually.
Yeah. Well, what do you got for me?
I guess start with the easy one.
Yeah.
This is so that's a cutting tool for silicon wafers, which I also have one here. We have a couple of these in the office. This one I'll show though. This was given to me by a viewer at LTX actually, and I did manage to get it all the way back home safely.
Wow.
So I want to say, did he write on it? I want to say he worked at TI, and that's where this one came from. But so the cutting tools, I think that's a diamond blade, and the way it works is it goes on an arm, on a machine. It's all automated, and you can see the individual dies for whatever product this is, whatever silicon product this is, and it'll go through and dice them. It'll cut them into the final die that goes on the substrate.
Yeah.
So this one, I just bought that on eBay because I thought it was a cool piece to have, and it was, I don't know, they're cheap. They're getting retired all the time from fabs. And then there's a lot of these on eBay as well, but that one was from a viewer. So
there's a lot of wafers on eBay. If this is something I've actually never gone on and checked.
Yeah, if you wanted one for wall art, like we've got one in there that's framed.
Yeah.
And they look cool. You can get varying sizes. They're not too expensive, like $20 for something this size.
Yeah.
So, no, yeah, they're a lot of the fabs will give them out to employees who've been there a while, or when they're just getting rid of defects, like wafers that can't be reclaimed or something.
Yeah.
So
That's definitely a cool piece.
yeah.
But I did hear that you actually had like the Intel GPU.
I do have the Intel GPU.
Can we see it?
Technically, I'm under embargo, but you're not.
I'm not.
Yeah.
This is going on my channel.
Right, it's on your channel, so it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
count.
Right. No. It
Okay,
doesn't.
just making sure everyone's clear, Intel.
Yeah.
All right.
Don't
so
blame him.
Now we've gotten that out of the way. This is the Intel GPU, sort of. So we worked with a guy named Ian from SGI Depot for a while. We did 2 videos. We did one on an O2, I think. They also had an Onyx system we talked to him a lot about. But the 2 systems we built, one was about $18,000 at the time it was sold. Obviously not anymore, but this was 90s for the most of it. And the other one was about 30-something thousand, I want to say. It might have been more. But this is a part we never actually worked with for those 2 systems. And it's a geometry engine of sorts for using all Intel hardware over here. So you can see there's this 12 of the Intel i860s. This is from around 88 or 90 or so, and 1990. They're 50 megahertz parts, and this is just the processing power. So it's
That's crazy looking. And you were saying that there are still some enterprise solutions that
yes,
still need these parts.
yeah. So there are an SGI Depot's got like all kinds of history on this, but there are companies that can't update their software for various reasons. And there's sometimes you deal with stuff in remote parts of the world where it's just hard to get to again, which is why Serial still exists.
Right.
The interface, not the food. And also, so yeah, you'll still get people trying to buy, I don't know about this specific one, but buy old SGI parts to keep systems alive. And anyway, so this did processing for things like, I think it did like filters and blurs, like Gaussian blurs, stuff like that.
Yeah. How long would it take to render out the GN logo in Blender, you think?
We actually were, not for this, but for one of the systems, the SGI systems, we were talking to SGI Depot about how would we go about doing that.
Oh, yeah?
And it doesn't seem like it's too easy to do.
I would imagine that it's not. And then
yeah.
you'd be here for 4 years while it rendered
Yes,
it out.
Yeah, yeah. There's it's considerably slower, but this was not cheap at the time. I don't know if I have a price here. I have notes from, let's see, from the guy who helped us get this. I don't see a price for this listed, but it does say, for point of reference, that it's 1.2 gigaflops of geometry engine performance.
Gigaflops.
So, yes.
I mean, you're getting up there into
teraflops.
the giga.
Yeah. So
Pretty
anyway,
good.
that's pretty cool. That's the.
That is really cool, actually.
That's what Intel's been working on.
Well, I mean, you saw it here first.
Yeah. You just need to have a thumbnail that's like Intel GPU.
Well, that is going to be the thumbnail, so.
There you go.
You brought this too. Well,
Yes.
you brought it. So you
Yeah, I
brought
brought
it from your office to the table.
Yeah.
So
Right.
Right.
It was pretty far.
It seemed like an effort.
I definitely put in all the effort for your channel, Brian.
I appreciate it.
Not for Kyle or Paul, but
Well, they're not here,
that's right.
even though we gave them money today.
We did give them money, and they didn't even show up.
No, what jerks.
Yeah. So this is a memory board, to my knowledge anyway. It's got 32 slots on it, and currently I think it's populated with 256 megabytes of RAM. This is like circa 1993. So 256 megs was pretty damn good. Also expensive. This was a memory board. It's called the MC3 memory board. I have to check notes on this one. I don't actually, believe it or not, have it memorized.
That seems okay to
I'm
me.
sorry to offend you. And it was a memory board for the Challenge or the Onyx SGI system, along with the other SGI parts we're looking at. And it says a single rack supports up to 8 MC3s for a max of 16 gigabytes of RAM, which was 93.
That actually seems like a lot for the time.
I mean, 16 gigabytes is like what people are buying today.
Yeah.
For
Only
consumer,
you had to use how many slots to get there?
well, 32 of these, and then
Yeah.
it said a rack of however many the number was I just read. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's just really cool stuff, and all these pieces would socket into whatever the next compatible part was through these massive
Yeah.
connectors
Just
over
be
here.
blades on top of blades.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
It's pretty cool stuff.
That actually looks really neat, and you can see all like the individual memory modules on there too.
Yeah, there's no heat sinks on this one, but
no need.
you also don't need them today, and they're still on there.
Yeah, well, they look pretty today.
They do.
So,
yes.
But also on these boards, you have a lot of air moving across them.
Yeah,
because you have the fans in the chassis.
And I don't know if someone in the comments can feel free to correct me on this. These look to me like EEPROMs, but I'm not really exactly sure. Those look like EEPROMs for the memory. Either way, I think that looks super cool.
I do too, actually. I wish memory looked like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need a heatsink that looks like memory modules to put on top of the RAM.
Right, right. Or just a super dense DIMM somehow.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe some company will figure that out.
Yeah, maybe someday.
Someday. Someday we'll go back 20 years, 30 years. But yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Steve, for showing us some of this stuff. And I think like as we move forward in the industry, people are going to keep stuff from this era, and in 10, 15, 20 years, be like, look at this
so what if
ancient technology.
Yeah, so like if you were going to make a bet on, let's say you could keep one piece of hardware that's come out in the last, maybe since 2017 to now.
Okay.
What is it you think will hold the most either sentimental or monetary value to collectors? You think Ryzen 1?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about any specific chips or just Ryzen 1?
Probably one of the 8 cores.
Yeah.
The 1700X or something along those lines, or maybe just like the top end, the 1800X I guess was the top. But I think that over time, even though clearly AMD's made huge leaps between then and now, you might look back on that in 15 years and be like, yeah, I remember. Same thing with like the FX62.
Yeah.
Like this comes out and just changes the game.
Right.
You know, so we might be looking back at that and saying that that was really the start of something. Who knows? I mean, maybe in 15 or 20 years, Intel will have 10 nanometer and they'll have something that they could come back with.
Maybe.
It's possible.
I don't know about that.
What do you think? What do you think was going to hold some value?
I think Ryzen's definitely a good bet. I would say, honestly, on the GPU side, I don't really feel like it feels very commoditized. So like
Pascal was pretty good.
Pascal, I mean the 1080 Ti, for sure. If I have plenty of them, but if I were in your situation where you built that system you're talking about, and I didn't have the parts, and one day I'm like, I'm going to buy a bunch of used stuff and build the thing I want, it would have a 1080 Ti.
Right.
I still think that's the best GPU I've ever reviewed.
Yeah.
And the value is good. So I don't know that card is ever going to happen again. I don't know that NVIDIA is going to let something that good happen at that price again. Yeah,
it seems not likely when you have that generational like absolute leap.
Yeah.
And the 980 Ti, looking back on it, was also an excellent card.
Yeah.
But then versus the 1080 Ti, it's like
there's like 30% or something.
It was like 35%. Yeah. Like it was enormous. But so yeah, between that and Ryzen, I think like a couple of really good years for hardware releases.
So 10 years from now, we'll do Ryzen 1 plus 1080 Ti build.
Yeah, and we'll be on this channel being like, look at this thing.
Yeah.
And I'll be 50 years old and nobody will want to watch me anymore. So. Yeah, but thank you so much for showing us this stuff. Stay tuned to the channel for more videos from down here at the Gamers Nexus HQ. And see you guys later.
See ya.